I'm quite sure that anybody watching this has their own pandemic story to tell, but here's mine. It's March 10th, 2020. I'm sitting down for coffee with friends. I'm with my wife Gail, and we're just talking about our upcoming trip. We were planning to go to France to continue our journey, our walking journey across France and Italy on a walk that's called the Via Francigena. And this walk is a traditional pilgrimage walk. It starts actually in Canterbury in Britain, and it goes to Rome in Italy. We had completed the first phase of that walk, the first stage of that walk, in September and October of 2019, and we were actually just planning to leave around March 30th to head off to France to continue on our walk along the pilgrimage route. Anyway, so to this coffee I brought a little map that I could show our friends and exactly what our route was, and I actually had circled on the map where the localized pandemic COVID-19 outbreaks had occurred along the way, and how we were going to be weaving through those and actually not going through them. And everything seemed fine at that point, and that we were still planning on taking our trip. Then on March 11, we sat down to watch a Winnipeg Jets hockey game, and we live in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Anyways, the Winnipeg Jets, they won their game, but at the end of the game we started to hear rumblings from the announcers, and you could see the team members discussing it. They hadn't left the ice. What they were talking about, the Utah Jazz basketball game, which had just been completed a little bit earlier that evening, and one of the players had tested positive for COVID-19. And then at the same time, the WHO had declared this a pandemic. And also at the very same time, we found out that the NBA had suspended their entire season indefinitely. So it was right after that our world shut down completely, and we all have the similar story. How in some places in the world it would have happened earlier, in some places a little bit later, but ours was basically around March 11 that all hell broke loose, and we became housebound, and our motto became stay at home and self-isolation and social distancing. Anyways, as a photographer, I began to think of projects that might convey some aspects of these uncanny times that we were just starting to live through. And for some reason, André Kertész popped into my mind, famous photographer, black and white photographer from Hungary. Had a very extensive career, very well known. Anyways, but I seem to recall a project of his. I don't think it's even a well-known project that he had done. And the project was, as I recall, where he was looking out of windows and taking pictures through those windows. And I seem to recall that even the title of the book was called From My Window. And sure enough, I did a quick Google search, and I found out that's exactly the name of the project, the name of the book that he came out with. It was published in 1981. And as soon as I found out that, I got very excited. The book is out of print now, well out of print, but I ordered a used copy through abooks.com, and it arrived in very short order, and it confirmed exactly what I thought, and even more so. I got very excited about it. This is actually that book right there. It's André Kertész, From My Window. This is actually a pretty pristine copy of it, all virtually brand new. I took a look at this and I got very excited, as I said, about it. So in the case of André Kertész, of course, it was not a pandemic that was the reason, his motive for writing this book. It was other factors, but not too dissimilar in some respects. One of the factors was old age. Kertész was in his 80s at the time, well into his 80s by the time this book was published. As well, he had just lost his wife. Well, not just, but he had lost his wife, Elizabeth, in 1977. That was a tremendous tragedy to him. And at that point, he had essentially lost a lot of his gusto, I think, for taking pictures, and apparently he'd essentially stopped taking pictures entirely. In that respect, he was a prisoner in some way himself. In his case, it was a prisoner in his apartment. A very nice apartment indeed. It was an apartment that was overlooking Washington Square in New York City, so it was not a shabby place at all to be. But nevertheless, he was more or less stuck up there at that particular time. So that was his state at that particular point. But then he discovered two very important things. First, in a shop just down the street from his apartment, he noticed in the shop window a rather curvaceous, handsome glass figurine, and that he took a fancy to, and eventually he actually did go in and he purchased that, and that became more or less his metaphor for his wife Elizabeth in his upcoming project. The second thing that urged him back into photography was the acquisition of a Polaroid SX-70 camera. As a matter of fact, he acquired two cameras. Both were given to him. One was given to him by Peter McGill of Light Gallery, and the other one was given to him by Graham Nash of Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young fame. And Graham Nash himself was no slouch of a photographer. He was also a collector, and he was very much interested in André Kertész. Went up there with his wife to actually talk about photography with André Kertész. Anyways, all those were important to him, got him back into photography using the SX-70 camera. He was quite enthused by it, and by 1981, as I mentioned, he published his book, From My Window, and the book was dedicated to his wife Elizabeth. And this is the dedication page for Elizabeth right there. So anyways, the pictures in the book are more or less what I remembered to a certain extent, although I certainly learned a lot more from revisiting the book. Here we have some pictures, again using the figurines, the glass figurine. He bought a second figurine as well and started photographing through his window using these glass figurines. And he also did other things, shadow studies and what have you, using light that was coming in through the windows of his apartment, and other different figurines as well. So all in all, it's about 50 plus photographs in the SX-70 photographs in this book, and that became the book that I really got me thinking about my new project. So now we're early May 2020, and I'm now just beginning the project at this stage. I've got my own vintage SX-70 camera, and I'd also gotten a batch of SX-70 film as well, a fairly large batch. And then I started to do my own study, my own story of my self-isolation, which of course is the story of all of our isolations in one way or another. It's a story shared in many ways, in many forms, by all of us, all across the globe. So André Kertész, certainly my inspiration in this project. I'm going to put the book aside for now, and with that as the background information, I'm going to start to explore my own isolation inside our house and see what I can find, see what I can discover about the experience of self-isolation here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. So anyways, I hope that you got an idea of where this project is going, and I hope you will follow along. I plan to have more videos in the coming weeks, and on top of that, you can follow the progress of my SX-70 photography. The best place to see that is on my Instagram account, and there will be a link below, as well as I will be posting to my blog, which is walkclickmake.com. Again, the link will be below. And you might even want to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can be notified of when more videos are made available. Anyways, talk soon. Bye bye for now.